This is another video about how to achieve a successful 50-year marriage. My name is Russell Taylor. I'm a life coach, and I specialize in men and marriage. My clientele are primarily men, especially fatherless men and men who have very few mentors in their lives. What I teach men is how to be the father and the best husband that every woman would want to marry. Tell you a little about myself. I met my soulmate in high school. We were sweethearts. And our first formal date was our prom. We enjoyed each other's company so much, I asked her to marry me. We had a daughter, and we spent 54 years happily married. Well, my mentors are my parents and my grandparents, who both families achieved their 50th anniversaries. So I'm 3 generations of keeping my marital vows of for better or worse, richer or poorer, to death do you part. My inspiration is what I see today is so many single family homes with no men in them. Statistically in America, the white families are 39% single family homes. Hispanic families are in their 50s, 52, 56. But the African American family has an astounding number of 76% of our families are single family homes. And why that astonishes me is we have too many children. That means out of every 10 children that are black, 8 of them, 7 to 8 of them, have no father in their house. Now, the picture that I have in my mind, the thing that I see that's important and motivating for me, is that says to me that I have this visual of how many women I know, black women I know, who are single moms, and I've heard young women say things like, oh, he'll never see his child, or even worse, the scenario of a mother with a boy and a girl in the house, maybe one of each or more. But what happens is the African American mother teaches her child, her daughter, how to be responsible, plan for a future. Girl, get your bag, get your education, get your career, get your house, get your car. Because men ain't shit, and you can't count on them. Well, while she's telling this story to her daughter, her son or sons are listening to the mother say this on a daily basis, multiple times. I hear it often enough that I think she must say it every hour, on the hour. But what happens from the visual of the son, what is he hearing? Because the mother is raising the daughter and loving on the son. So she makes very little demand on the son. So now what the son hears is that my father and my sister's fathers ain't shit. Which means if I'm going to grow up to be a man, then obviously I'm not going to be shit. So why should I really put an effort out to be anything? Because my sisters will take care of me, like my mother does. This is a horrible scenario. And so I realize that too many of our African American sons and daughters have never actually seen a successful husband-wife relationship that achieved their 50th anniversary. So how would they know what to do to achieve that? Or to even have the mere inkling of how that works? The additional sad part of the African American family, single family home, is too often 80, 90, 100% of the mothers who are single moms with children, all of her friends are single moms with children, which means her sons and her daughters never actually hear the deep voice of a man's authority or his accomplishment or his protection or his security. They have no idea what a grown man sounds like or looks like. So your daughter, even though she's aspiring to be this independent operator, and the son who's already given up before he's even ever tried, because the world is already against him, and he constantly hears about the white man this and the white man that, even though he sees his sister working through the system, he's already been told he ain't shit. And he won't be shit. And the men that come in his community is hitting on his sister and his mom at the same time. He has no idea what you're looking for in a man. So in reality, when out of 7 or 8 out of every 10 of our children, male and female, decide that they will try and make a marriage work, when the woman is speaking to her husband, she might as well be speaking to her sister, because her husband has never heard or seen how a man would deal in a relationship to inspire his woman, to entertain his woman, to secure his woman. I'll give you an analogy. I saw a video recently where Taraji Henson, a very successful actress, was coming out of a hotel. She was dressed like she was going to an award show. She looked fabulous. But in the middle of the day, as she walks out into the street looking for her ride, whoever was coming, she's having a lot of anxiety, and she's walking down the street all dressed to kill, and several men spot her. Several black men go, "Oh, that's Taraji." And they start to come towards her. And you can see the expression in her face of shock, like, what do I do? Maybe I hold this angry face. Maybe I'll be prepared to bark like a dog or do something to not be handled by these men. So a third man runs up and he sort of steps between, and he sort of, lets these guys know, hey, back off. And when they do, Taraji don't know how to thank him, or should she, because you don't know who he is. And so this young brother who thinks, oh, I just did a very positive thing for Taraji. Well, Miss Henson, can I take a picture with you? And she's still looking around for a car with lots of anxiety, like a prey would do. And she finally agrees to take the picture with him. But the reason I'm raising this story is because out of all the young actresses that I've seen with men, I've never seen or heard of Taraji with or having a man. And in this case, she's a very successful woman, well known. I mean, these guys see her as a celebrity, and anybody else would see her as a high achiever. But as a woman on the street with no security and no protection, in the jungle we would call that being a male. Because in reality, ladies, whether you're 110 pounds, 160 pounds, 260 pounds, do you really actually think that if one of these gentlemen decided to put their hands on you, that you would be qualified to defend yourself? Well, I actually did this video because so many times I hear women in the videos that I've watched of relationship and other coaches trying to instruct people on the future of tomorrow. And I very often hear women saying, I'm a masculine woman. And by saying that, they really imply that the men are feminine. And given statistics, they're not masculine men because they haven't been taught how to be the Lion King. I want to use an analogy. You know the story of the Lion King. The son, a cub, being raised up to be able to be the king of the jungle and be able to one day replace his father. But because something happens and as a cub he gets separated from his father, he has no idea what a king does, even though he met his dad. But I want to share a parable because what has actually happened in our society is we move so far from center in our financial and materialistic world that we move so far away from our spiritual and family world that now I understand that 35% of our young men under 35 have no children and have no interest in getting married. Worse, in the black community, our African American young ladies under 35, this already statistically says that when they get to their 70s, they will be cat ladies. They might have had a kid who probably doesn't deal with them, especially if it's a son. And there'll be nobody there for you, sweetheart. There's an old saying, once a man, twice a child. And what that saying means is that you were born into a family and raised to be grown, male, female, to go out into the world as an adult. But when you become a senior, you go back to sliding into a needy position, is what a child is. You actually need somebody to call on you, to check on you, to give you a ride to the doctor, help you get your medicine, to help you fill out your forms for your retirement plan. Because you could have a 401k and Social Security, but if you can't produce the forms and sign them and fill them out correctly, those things will not happen for you. So your independence can heavily play against you when you spend your life without developing any relationship of accountability. And what I want to share with my men, because I'm speaking to my men, is that there's two types of relationships that you should be aware of, that in my 75 years I'll share. I've come to the conclusion that there's two. One is there's the transactional relationship, which means, hey, Russ, if you do this for me, I'll do that for you. But Russ, if you don't do anything for me, I won't do anything for you. That's pretty much the American way. Capitalism at its best. You get yours and don't give a damn about the next guy. But the other type of relationship, I'm sure, so many of these people who have to grow up in fatherless families or single families, haven't built a relationship with anyone that when you grow older, that someone just gives a damn. They love you no matter, despite the fact that you're drunk and you have bad habits and your breath stinks and whatever, you lie a lot, but they will look out for you. So I would say to you young men that you need to build relationships, especially with your children, by how many baby mamas you might have. Because like Quincy Jones has all his kids in a room together from multiple wives, these guys realize that there's more to life than material things. But the story I want to share with you to establish the difference of your grandness as a man as opposed to the helper status of a woman. I want to share a story with you and to see what your response is. And this is, I've had a woman or several women say to me, men don't offer security and protection. I go, really? I gave you the story of Taraji, but here's how ancient times have worked. Because we live in a very comfortable position right now where you can kind of be independent of everybody else. But here's the story. So, you know the times of medieval times. Let's say, I'm sure everyone's seen the Games of Thrones, right? So in medieval times, all over the world, even prior to this, people lived in villages, and he may have had a king and a leader. And let's take this particular kingdom, I'll call it Oswald, just for a name. So this family, this tribe, the village, all the people getting along, they got wives and children, and the men are going out killing the beast and bringing the meat back home, and the women are picking the berries and making the meals, and the men are building their huts, and everybody's happy. And one day, this guy, this unusual man, rides up on a horse, shields, swords, spears, helmets, chest vest, rides into the village, and he says, "Who's the king here?" And you step up. He says, "I'm the king." And the man says, "Well, I come to take over your village." And the man says, "Oh, no, there's no way you're coming to take my village." He says, "Well, then we would have to go to war." And the guy said, "Well, sure, absolutely." The king of the village goes, "You're not going to take my village and my women and my children. No, hell no." And the guy says, "Well, in that case, we're in the valley out there, and in the morning when you come to the valley, we'll have it out. And if you win, you get to keep your village." And the guy says, "Well, sure." And the man rides off in a horse. I think of a number of different movies that work like this. But these men all in the village all get together, and they get their sticks and their pickaxes and their shovels and all their little weapons. Some guy's got a bow and arrow and a spear. And they all get up in the morning, and they run up to the top of the hill, and they look down into the valley. There's 1,000 of us. There's no way they can take our village. And when they look down into the valley, they see over 10,000 soldiers with the same kind of uniforms and shiny swords and spears, and shields, and all kind of helmets and big horses and all of these weapons. And they look down and they can see these men are organized and they're prepared to march on their village. Now here's the question, especially for the ladies who happen to be listening to this conversation. These men from the village, you and your tribe, are standing on top of the hill with all your weapons, angry as hell, knowing you have no interest in these men putting their hand on your women or your children or your grandmother or anyone else. There's no way you're going to allow this. But you have two choices at this point when you're standing on the hill. You see that you're outnumbered by 10, and you probably have never had hand-to-hand combat other than with your brother or your cousin. And now you're looking at death right straight in the eye. Now here's the question. What do the men do? They have one or two choices. They can lay down their weapons and go, "Oh, okay, well, you got us outnumbered, so you can come and take the village, and we'll be your slaves, and you can take my wife and my children and do what you will. Or we'll run down this hill and give you hell and hope that our gods protect us." So which would these men do? You and I know very well. They're going to run down the hill and give up their life and get slaughtered by real soldiers who have taken over many villages just like yours. But this is not the end of the story. So now that the villagers have been wiped out, the males have been wiped out, the soldiers march into the village as soon as it's done, and they ride in, and all the women are standing there, and they know that if they see these soldiers, that their boyfriends, their husband, their father, their lover, whoever male they care the most about, and said, "I'll die for my man, and he's the most important thing to me." She now recognizes he's not coming back because this soldier has his blood all over him, all over his sword. And as this soldier starts to dismount from his horse to claim his treasure, as he's walking up to the woman, here's the question. So what does the woman think to do? Now she realizes that her husband, her lover, the most important person in her mind, the father of her children, has just lost his life minutes ago in an effort to protect her and the village. So when she reaches over to pick up a knife, and she thinks to herself, I'm going to hold up this knife. And does she think to herself, she has several choices here. She could go, oh, I love Reggie so much. He was the most important man to me, and I would never let you touch me, and go, that's the choice. Well, it almost never happens. So let's try another one. She also has the choice of going, I know when this guy dismounts from his horse, whether I like it or not, I'm about to be raped. My daughter's going to be raped. My son could get raped. We are going to belong to him like livestock. So in her mind, since rape is the highest level of intention in his mind, does she take the knife and say, oh, soldier, I would never let you rape me, and shove the knife into him? No, that's not how it usually works. How it usually works is a woman concedes, well, if my man's not here and you're here, then I guess I'm now your woman, or whatever you want to make me. I know many people have never thought about this question, but in every nationality, no matter what the culture is, no matter what the religion is, no matter what the beliefs are, the skin color, the foods they eat, there's one thing that stands as a standard in every village, in every kingdom, in every township, in every government. The men give their names to their wives. A man, the wife, always leaves her family name and takes on the name of her man. Every nationality. There is no nationality in history that I'm aware of, and I do stand corrected if someone can show that to me, where a man takes his woman's name. I'm talking about societal. Maybe if you're King of England or Queen of England, the husband might take your name. I'm not very sure of that, but I'm talking about the nation, how it operates as customs. So since that's the standard everywhere, even here in America, where our women are the most liberated women on the planet, soon to be changed, now that you have no more rights to your body, which Meg has made sure that he's brought you back to medieval times. The question is, how are we going to function as a people if our mothers are raising sons and daughters to be daughters? And I can understand when I gave that scenario of the mother raising a son and raising a daughter, then the son thinks like his mother and the daughter thinks like the mother. So when the woman is married to a man for however long she can tolerate it, most relationships don't last but 8 years. But if you can get past 8 years, she's pretty much tolerating your decision making by the fact that she could be talking to her sister or girlfriend when it comes to coming to a conclusion how to resolve an issue. And if you're not the man for Taraji, type to be able to protect her, where she can call on you and she can have you be there to shield her from these awesome day-to-day kind of experiences. And imagine, I'll go back to the fact that you need to be aware that imagine if you have no children, young men, you're 35 or plus, and you don't have a mate and no children, two things will happen. I've been married 54 years, and I'm 75. And one of the greatest values for me selfishly that I learned from my father and his father is that a woman is going to feed you well if she's your mate. She's going to take care of you being sick, take care of your needs, make sure you go to the emergency room. I personally had an experience of having a stent, and I crashed out one Saturday, and my chest felt like an elephant had sat on me, and my wife just demanded, "You're going to the hospital right now." And me and my macho mindset is, "Oh, this is probably gas." I get to the doctor's office, and they said, "Oh, Mr. Taylor, we're giving you a room tonight. We're operating on you in the morning." That, on my 69th birthday, could have been my last day. So, as opposed to putting such great value into cars that go out of age, into toys that go out of age, to homes that can be burned down or flooded out, or the wind can blow them away, or you can lose it because you lost your job. All these material things that we've been caught up into chasing these rings to accomplish, to prove our manhood, really deteriorate down to nothing. So the purpose of my wanting to share with you videos like this is to say to you that the most valuable thing there is in life is an unconditional relationship, one which you can build with your children. Because imagine you have no children and you're 75 like me. My daughter takes very good care of me. She's a daddy's girl. And you have no children, and we both fall into a need of having our chest hurting. There's no one coming, my friend. You haven't given anybody time. You haven't given anybody consideration. You haven't been thoughtful towards anybody. You've never established that relationship with anybody. So no one owes it to you. And let me finish this by saying to you, I hear all these young men nowadays in their 30s and 40s going, "Oh, I can't find a woman." Well, let me say this. Men, we are mostly driven by visual. So an extremely attractive woman brings out the beast in us, which means we'll pay anything for a satisfaction of a few minutes. We'll tolerate pretty much anything. But let me say this to you. If you're going after the visual, lustful relationship, that's about all you're going to get out of that relationship. There's many young women who wish they could find a guy who's been mentored to be a man, who's mentored to know how to treat a woman, how to offer security and protection. And let me finalize this by saying that when I mention about being three generations of death do you part, what I'm teaching and willing to teach you is values, morality, principles, and a code of conduct. If you learn these systems, you're like the difference between the guy who's driving on the road, who can cross the country 16 plus times like myself, or you could be the child who someone gave him the keys to a car and told him to figure out how to drive it. And for you young brothers who have not had a mentor in your life, you're the guy who's teaching yourself how to drive, which means I could almost describe what your car looks like, or what your life looks like, all the anxiety that you live under. Those things can be organized. Those things can be laid out in a planful way that you can plan out 50 years and how you will get from where you are today with or without a wife, but at least planning where people are very comfortable with you. You see, the world treats people as good as you come. So if you come and you're an organized, good citizen, trustworthy, honest, these are values that you need to learn, to know what they are and know how to apply them. People will trust you in their home. They will trust you with their cash register. They will trust you to do a good job. And you will be elevated on jobs based on everybody needs good help. Every person needs a good, solid friend. And if you could be that, and I'll end this by saying to you, every man gets the woman that he's qualified for. The other thing I'll share with you, so you can face off to these women that you seem to be so difficult for you to understand how to operate with them, is understand that this issue of who's the prize, who's not the prize. Women are the prize when it comes to dating. When it comes to getting married, men choose the wives. So women choose the boyfriends and the men choose the wives. So once you develop yourself as a mature man who has a plan, who's working on outdoing his sister and his niece and his daughter and his wife, and be able to outperform them financially, responsibilities, you will be the prize. And we won't even get into talking about polygamy, which is coming back. So the only way you can master a relationship is you have to first master yourself. And that's what my courses are based on. So what I will tell you is you can send me an email or text and let me know if you're interested in further classes. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. And there will be more videos in the future. Hope that was a help to you.